This week on the podcast, we're going to take some email questions from listeners all around the area right here on Red Zone Retirement Program, Simple Investing, Smart Future with John Mears.
In football, the red zone is where a team has to make small adjustments to ensure victory. As you approach retirement, you also need to make small adjustments to ensure success. This is the Red Zone Retirement Program with registered investment advisor and enrolled agent John Mears of Mears Money Management.
Hey everybody, welcome into the podcast this week as we take some email questions from you all around the area. And if you've got questions of your own, stop by John's website. I can't talk. I don't know. It's like I get paid to do this. Stop by his website and talk to him. Get on the calendars, drop an email, whatever it is you'd like to do at mearsmoney.com. That's mearsmoney.com. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and check out some of the shorts we have on YouTube and all that good stuff. So lots of good stuff going on. What's going on? How you doing, my friend?
Not much. I like when you're stumbling on a word or two. I always joke about when I'm coaching football, I signal in the plays from the sideline, and sometimes the signals get all jumbled up sometimes. Thank goodness the players are smarter than me, and they can decipher what I'm talking about.
Maybe, right? They're standing over there going, what did he say? Do you know? I think it was this one. All right. Yeah. And then if they run the wrong play, you yell at them and they're thinking, but that's,
I've been known to just yell the play in. If they're not getting it, a buddy of mine coached the school years ago where his quarterback, he found out later after the fact, his quarterback was practically blind. Couldn't even see the signals from the field.
How
is he
hitting receivers if he couldn't see very well?
Why is he running the wrong play? Yeah.
How did he throw the ball if he couldn't see very well? That's crazy.
I don't know. They weren't very good.
Did they have a good record?
No, they did not. But it was pretty funny.
Well, that might have had something to do with
it. Yes.
Poor kid needed some glasses or something.
Yeah.
Well, let's look. So we're in between. I call it the dead zone. I know I got you off the couch long enough to not watch some bowl games to talk to me this week. I know it was hard doing, so thank you. For coming in and chatting with me.
Lots of football.
But we're going to do the podcast this week, and we're just going to do some emails from around the area. So
love the mailbag stuff. Yes.
Yeah, it's good, fun stuff. So if you got some questions, like I said, you need some help, reach out to John, book a chat with John.net.
Yes.
All right, let's start with Dan. And Dan says, I've always donated to several different charities at the end of the year, but since the tax laws changed a couple years ago, it just doesn't seem like there's that big of a benefit from the tax standpoint. Am I missing something here, or does it really not help on taxes anymore? Yes, I realize there's other reasons to give to charity other than just tax breaks, but
right.
And that's a fair question because when they changed the standard deductions, it just changed a lot of that stuff, right? So people are just wondering, hey, like the mortgage thing doesn't play into that anymore as much. So,
and that's the reality. And Dan's 100% correct. I've had people that cause I still help some of my larger clients with their taxes, but the standard deduction is up around, we'll call it, I'm going to round it for simplicity, around $28,000. It's hard to get there. And they've even added in some charitable rules here and there where it'll be a front of the an off the top deduction for $300 or whatever. But they only did that for a year or two, got away from that. One thing I do tell people, if you are at retirement age or you're taking your retirement distributions, if you're age 70 and a half, you can actually start doing what they call a qualified charitable distribution out of your IRA. And that is something you can do where the money has to go directly from the IRA to the charity. But it's a way, if you are charitably inclined and you normally did this, it's a great way to, pull in many cases, your required minimum distribution out and pay the charity directly. I offer my clients
everybody gets taxes.
Yeah. So my clients will have a checkbook, and if they're writing to the church, their tithes or whatever, they'll have a checkbook. They can just write directly to the church. You can't have it first. If it comes to you first, it's still a normal distribution. So it has to go straight to the charity.
It's got to go straight to them.
Yeah, but it's a great tool to use if you're charitably inclined. There are other things you can do if you're charitably inclined, which are too much to go over in one podcast. If you have any questions, if you are a large donor, if you will, that's something where you'd want to reach out to me. We can go through certain types of trusts you might be able to do. But honestly, it's a legitimate question. If you're not charitably inclined and you're doing it for the wrong reasons, where you're trying to get a deduction, it's probably not worth it anymore. But
John, what are donor advised funds? Is that something that would work in that area or no?
Yeah, so that's the same thing. Where again, you're going to get an upfront deduction, and so that's something where you are going to be able to contribute to this and get the deduction off of that. So that is absolutely a choice here that you could use. There's the donor advised funds where you get an upfront deduction for whatever you're contributing into this particular fund, if you will. So
But
these
if you
are
still don't hit the number, it doesn't matter, right? If you still don't
correct.
get to that 28, okay.
Yes.
All
So
right.
you still have to be able to, but again, it's a great tool if you want to make a larger deduction though. And this is a personal question too, really. I just wanted to add to that with when it comes to charitable deductions and charitable contributions, it is a very personal question. This is why it's important for us to actually talk, I think, go through this about why and how you should be doing it.
Yeah, very fair. True. All right, Wesley. Here's your question, buddy. Says, I'm almost 70 and I worry that I'll never be able to retire. Yes, I'm one of those. I've always heard that you need to have $1 million saved to retire. I got like half that. So do I just plan to work forever or what?
That's a really good question. So a lot of it we don't know. Some of it depends on where you live, depends on what your expenses may be, your cost of living. There's so many things on the other side that I don't know about just off of this particular email. So if this is just an email that I get out of the blue, which I do like this oftentimes, this is a normal question. People are definitely scared that they don't have enough to retire.
Let's break a couple things down for him to play devil's advocate here, Coach. So he says he's 70. I'm assuming he's turned on Social Security at this point, right? So that would be one question. Did he turn it on early? Did he turn it on at full retirement age? Did he wait to 70, right? That could be a piece that helps in there. The whole $500,000 thing, I don't know that necessarily makes or breaks anything. It depends on, like you said, lifestyle and where he lives. But where's that money at? We were just talking about tax efficiency. Is it all sitting in a 401k or a traditional IRA, right?
Could be in a Roth. The tax character of this money also matters. And so there's so many things that we need to delve into. Now, again, if you want to, when we're doing a distribution strategy, we're looking at a little more than 5% of whatever you have. And that's in a kind of a moderate 50-50, 60-40 portfolio. But if we're looking around a 5.4% distribution rate, you're talking about $27,000 a year plus Social Security, plus whatever other sources of income he may or may not have. Then we have to kind of, at some point, if that's all he has income wise, then he might have to make some tough decisions. I had to go through that with people before where it's a finite amount. If you cannot work or don't want to work anymore, we have to make some tough decisions about where you're going to live and what you may have to do. And some people that in the LA, Southern California area, which is a high cost area, some people have made the tough decision. I've had a couple of people where they've moved to a lower cost area.
That's fair.
Yeah. Or yes, Wesley, you're going to have to keep working. And again, if you don't want to, or you can't work, we have to discuss that. That's part of planning.
Well, another question to know too, Wesley, is your house paid for? That can make a big old difference, right?
Yes.
If the house is paid off, I mean, you might not need as much as you thought you did anyway, right? So, and the whole like $1 million thing always kind of gets me. And I get that we're in two different parts of the country, but obviously California is very high. But depending on how you live and where you live, I mean, that's a huge factor in that number. I mean, I know plenty of people that could live very comfortably off $500,000 a year. I mean, $500,000 a year. Of course you could. $500,000 in retirement, right? So it just all depends on the other factors, like you said, that goes into it. Is Wesley married? Has his wife got a Social Security coming in? There's just a number of things that could add. So you may not be totally in the lurch. Like you may not be as screwed as you think you are, but have you ever sat down and found out?
Yes. And that's what any planner, not just me, but any good financial planner will be able to walk you through some of this. Even a preliminary plan, if you're just kind of asking for some general questions, we can probably assist you. When we're talking about home equity, as you brought up, Mark, there may be a spouse. Maybe you need to get married. No, I'm just joking here.
You need your sugar mama, Wesley.
But there's so many things that are not answered here. So people just look again, just at a number that they need to have at retirement. That's very simplistic thinking here. But there's a lot more that goes into that. But at least you're thinking about it. At least you're asking the question.
I mean, he's 70, so I wish he would have thought about it a little sooner. But you know it doesn't necessarily mean you're, like I said, you don't necessarily up the creek without the paddle, right? So
absolutely
sit down and have a conversation. If you're just doing back of the napkin thing and it's got you scared to bejesus and back, get on a calendar with an advisor. So just about all of them do complimentary consultations and reviews. If it's not John Wesley, talk to somebody in your area, whatever that looks like, but have a conversation and just run the numbers, find out where you stand. I get that it's scary, right? And maybe you're afraid to find out and be told that you feel like you have to work forever. But you may not. You may be in better shape than you realize. So there's like about a million other little things that are going to go into that conversation. So definitely reach out to John, book a chat with John.net. If you're in a similar situation, book a chat with John.net. But thanks,
let
Wesley,
me add
for checking
also
out the
that
podcast.
sometimes people are ashamed of where they're at financially, and so they're sometimes don't want to come out, or they're comparing themselves to other people. $1 million is a great number, but the average person has less than $70,000 saved up at retirement. So just know that the most regular people out there in society are very underfunded at retirement. So you're doing a great job by having $500,000 at age 70.
Yeah.
You're doing a fantastic job already.
That's why I said, that's why I said you may not be nearly as screwed as he thinks he is. Right. Yeah. So got to have the chats, man. Got to have the chats. But thanks for listening to the podcast, Wesley. We certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Olive's question says, I just started a new job and not eligible for the 401k until I've been there 6 months, which is going to obviously be in the middle of 2024-ish. Where should I be saving some money in the meantime? So if she can't pump into her 401k, what's a good strategy for somebody like that, John? Is it to stick it in the savings account temporarily and then add it when you can? Or what do you think?
Sure. All of it. It all depends on what your income level is. You could contribute to directly to a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. You could do some
just
of that.
Just open one up.
Yeah, you can open one up and not worry about the 401k contribution. There's nothing wrong with, sometimes people forget this, where you can just contribute or start saving in a regular brokerage account where people sometimes think that a brokerage account isn't a retirement account. It can be. Because when you pull money out, it can be you can be pulling money out at capital gains rates, which are an advantage rate. So there's nothing wrong with just putting money into a standard brokerage account, a nice mix of stocks and bonds, just like you would in your 401k. Nothing wrong with doing that. So just because you can't contribute to your 401k for 6 months,
she just can't get the free money yet, which I get. She's looking for that free money, which is cool.
With a match perhaps or whatever. Yes, that's all great, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do anything. Whatever you're planning on doing with the 401k, do it right now. Again, either with a traditional IRA, Roth IRA, standard brokerage account. I don't care if you put it in the credit union. You can still put money away in the meantime until you do the 401k. And then we can discuss how to do the company match and at what rate, how much you want to be able to contribute to your 401k.
Yeah. And kudos to Olive. I mean, she's like, well, it's only 6 months. I mean, many people would just go, it's 6 months. I'll just continue to do whatever. I mean, it's just extra money. I'll just do whatever with it. Right. So at least she's already thinking, hey, I want to pay my future self even before I start getting the company match. So rock on there.
And that shows it's all about attitude, Mark. This is something we talk about when people that are savers, they think this way. People that are not savers, they don't think that way. So that's why, again, kudos to Olive for having that, for having that great attitude.
Absolutely, Olive.
Yes, I know.
I'm just a sarcastic guy. God, what's wrong with this guy? A great question, Olive. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast, really and keep thinking in that mindset, right? Often we don't get. Wesley told us how old he was, but often we don't get ages on people. So if you're younger, older, whatever the case is, just keep thinking in that direction. So way to go!
Absolutely.
All right, let's do one more here. We got Amy, and Amy says, "All right, go ahead and yell at me, but I've never been in a hurry to pay off debt, never paid extra on my mortgage, never paid cash for a car." And use my home equity line fairly often for major purchases when I need to make them. I know that debt is generally a bad word and a bad thing, but it seems to me that I've been able to use debt and it's allowed me to save money into retirement accounts that I might not have been able to save. Am I missing something here? Am I doing it wrong? Or does it just work differently for different people?
All of the above, really, Amy. It's funny because people do talk about whether they should pay off their mortgage first or contribute to a retirement plan or whatnot, and there's a lot of nuance there. But when you do the math, mortgage rates, or at least they were up until a year or so ago, were surprised, really, really historic lows.
Yeah, crazy.
And you could get a mortgage at 3%, and with the tax deduction, be even less than that. The math actually works out, Amy, correctly with what you're thinking in your head, where you're better off paying the mortgage, keeping the mortgage and not paying it off, and actually
not paying extra, right?
Yes, and then investing it at a higher rate than what you're paying on your mortgage. The math does work out that way,
right?
I will tell people philosophically, I don't agree with that, but Amy, it seems like you would be one of those outliers that does make it work. What I find out most often is that people that don't do these things, that aren't paying off their house, are overspending on cars or whatever, they're also not spending on retirement as well, or not contributing to a long-term retirement plan. So if you're able to do that, you're not as far off as you think you are mathematically. Now, I take it one step further, and I tell people, I think there's a mental side of this as well. Why we want to be debt-free. I do believe that if you are debt-free, especially as you're at retirement or near retirement, there is a difference in outlook. When the markets go crazy, when the markets go down, the people that have debt tend to freak out a little bit more than the people that don't have debt. That's just been my experience. So if you can get rid of the debt, whether it be credit card debt, automobile debt, certainly mortgage debt, if you can get rid of that debt, then you have a better outlook and you don't freak out so much when the markets, which they always will, have some bumps in the road. But again, Amy, the math is correct. You're not going crazy here.
Not crazy.
And again, you're probably one of the rare outliers that are able to pull that off where, hey, I'm paying something lower and making more money over here. That, it does work that way.
So the couple questions that hit me, John, is like, okay, if you're you're not paying on the extra on the mortgage, that's fine. Let's say she does have the lower 3%. She's not paid cash on a car. She's paying a monthly payment. Okay, fine. Most of us do that. And she uses the home equity line. As long as she doesn't mention credit card debt, right? So if she doesn't have like a ton of bad debt, like if she doesn't have a ton of high interest rate, she's not sitting on 30 grand worth of credit card debt or something, then she might not be that in bad a shape, right? If she's managing that. And a lot of that comes back to knowing yourself. To your point, she's an outlier. If you know yourself that you can manage these things, that's fine, and it's allowing her to put money away for retirement still. Cool. Just, I guess I'd say just be real careful on how much is with like debt to income ratio or debt to income retirement.
So I'm still looking at the interest rates is what I'm still thinking here. And again, if the mortgage is at 3%, the cars can be at 0% oftentimes, but cars usually can have a pretty low interest rate as well.
Well, let's just say that she's had it a couple years. You can use my numbers, John. I have had, my house about 7 years ago and it was still low. My car only like 4 years ago was still low. So both of them are at about 3%. So, many people are still in that area. If they haven't done any financing the last year and a half, they're probably pretty low, right?
And if you can earn more than 3%, which you should be able to long run in the stock market or any reasonable portfolio, then again the math works out. Now, if you are paying credit card debt at 19.8%, you're not going to be earning that likely consistently in the markets. So that's why that would be the math wouldn't work out. But again, Amy's way of doing it, the math does work out. I've had people ask that before. Hey, am I better off keeping my mortgage? As long as you invest it, yes. Again, that's rare. Most people that, again, this attitudinally, if they are spendthrifts or whatever, they're not going to be saving well. But if you have that discipline to do that, if I would even go so far as to say it was deliberate and intentional, then Amy, you're not crazy. The math does work out. And again, but you're rare.
Yeah. Well, great questions this week here on the email podcast. So thanks for submitting those. We get these over the course of a couple of weeks, and then we kind of pile them up and we do different shows on them. And of course, John and his team has reached out to these folks as well. But we like to address them because if it's happening to one person, there's a good chance it's happening to somebody else or somebody's in a similar boat out there. So as always, don't forget you can subscribe to us on Apple, Google, Spotify. And John's got a couple of free books he gives away. We do this every show. So let me jump out real fast and we'll roll this footage. But check this out if you'd like to get a free copy of John's books. This is a great way to get started on some things too. John has a couple of free books, Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California, that reveal exactly how you can experience zero taxes in retirement and overcome the IRS lien on your 401k, IRA, and 403b, which could threaten your future lifestyle. These are complimentary, so all you have to do to pick these up 100% free is just stop by RescueMyRetirement.net. That's RescueMyRetirement.net. Fill in the basic info and he'll ship those out to you immediately. That's RescueMyRetirement.net for a copy of Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California. Okay, so we're back from that, and it's time for the 2-minute warning, Coach. We're going to wrap up the podcast this week. Since it's the in-between week between the new year, we're going to start the new year here soon. We'll be back with new episodes in January. Let's just finish it off with something fun here. New Year's resolutions. Like them, believe in them, don't use them, got tired, what?
I actually do believe in them, and I know that may sound quaint to a lot of people. I do like to have them. I like to have something that I am a football coach, so I have a little bit of a belief in attitude and whatnot. But I do think there's a time to hit the reset button where you kind of say, okay, now we'd all know that most people don't keep their resolutions. So I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here, but I do like the idea of having a resolution, something that it could be a financial resolution, if you will, because I'm a financial advisor where, hey, I've been contributing, and I'm making up a number here, say $500 a month to my 403B, and I'm going to increase it to $750 to my 403B. That would be a simple New Year's resolution.
A lot better than sticking with the gym one, right? We never stick to the gym
yes.
thing, right?
Yeah. So something like that. So I think it's great to have a simple, attainable financial resolution during the year. The other personal stuff, you're right. People don't usually stick it out too much, but, and I'm also a believer in not having a full 1 year resolution. I do believe even my own business, I do like little 3-month plans, and that's kind of how I look at things. So if you're looking at anything again on your financial life, probably take a look at the next 2 or 3 months and what can you do in the next 2 or 3 months. The easiest thing really is to increase any contributions you have. If you are somebody that's already retired, I do this with my new clients, incoming clients, and we kind of talk about this periodically. Look at your budget. And when I say budget, that doesn't mean actually do a budget. Just go through your B of A statement over the last month or two and start looking at what you spent money on. And I always do the plus, minus, and zero thing and say, if it's a plus, it's a necessity. If it's a zero, if it's a minus, it means it's frivolous. Maybe go through that and you'd be surprised how much money you can save just kind of going through your statement for the last month or two. That's an easy, again, resolution to do is, staying on top of your budget.
I like it. Yeah. Nice little financial resolutions that are simple and attainable. If you want to get all heavy and deep and do some philosophical resolutions, like I'm going to change my entire worldview on whatever, sure. But I think, when you're doing something, practical and simplistic that you can achieve, I like the 3-month idea too. Don't make it be like, and maybe that's the whole philosophical thing. Like, right, I'm going to change my whole, world outlook over the course of a year. And that might be a little lofty. Go for it if that's what you feel like you need to do. But, if you want something attainable, we'll just keep it financial. And I think those are a couple of great suggestions. So,
yeah,
good stuff. Thanks for hanging out, Coach. Enjoy the rest of the bowl games this week. I always love talking to you, and hope you have a good time. Get some rest and relax. And we'll be back with new episodes in the new year, 2024. How weird is that to say?
I'm getting old.
It's just crazy, right? I can't wrap my mind around it yet. So anyway, you folks have a great holiday season. We'll see you next time right here on Red Zone Retirement Program, Simple Investing, Smart Future with John Mears. Don't forget to subscribe to us on whatever platform app you like using. We'll see you next time.
Advisory services offered through Mears Money Management, Inc., an RIA registered in the states of California and Texas. California Department of Insurance License number 0685203.